Hi, and welcome to my latest Live and Lead for Impact strategy session. Today, I am talking about 6 surefire strategies to help you keep your word. If you're hopping on live, please say hi, throw in a question, and I'll see if I can answer some. I'm Kirsten Ross Vogel, and I'm here to help you be your best as a leader. So, let's first talk about why it's so important to keep your word. If you're of a certain age, I'm sure you remember the Seinfeld episode that took Jerry and Elaine to the car rental place. And if you didn't see it back when it first came out, I'm sure you've seen it in reruns or maybe a best of show. It really was epic. So in the episode, Jerry shares his frustration with the representative as he learns that the car he reserved is not available. And if you recall, he says, "You know how to make the reservation. You just don't know how to hold the reservation." And that really is the most important part. Anyone can make a reservation, but the holding. So it's super funny. It was hilarious. Everything that happened in that episode. And it's funny when it's not us. But I want you to now replace the word commitment with reservation in that sentence. You know how to make the commitment. You just don't know how to hold the commitment. And that's really the most important part. Whew. It's different when you hear it that way, yes? So I want to ask you, how often are you failing to keep your commitments in your life and in your work? I've worked with lots of clients who find themselves sliding down that slippery slope away from integrity. Most often they have really good intentions. They're not intending to slide away to have their word have less meaning than it should, but it just happens. And often it begins with a need to please or a need to be the hero, to feel helpful. Often they just want people to feel like they're there for them. And so they start to say yes. Does this feel like something that may have happened to you? So, and it's odd, the more you say yes, the more the requests come. It's like the universe knows the person who's gonna say yes. And so those requests come fast and furious, from many sources, and before you know it, you are overwhelmed, resentful, frustrated, and losing out on the opportunity to keep your word. And what happens when we don't keep our word? That's our integrity. And so people start to lose faith in us. So again, it usually starts unintentionally. Can you stay to finish the project? Stay late? Yes. Will you pick up the dry cleaning? Yes. Can you fill in the blank with any emergency? Yes. So that need to make others happy in the moment wins out over keeping our integrity. And we're not realistic for what we're actually going to get done. Over time, that reaction to saying yes without putting any thought into it, again, has us going down that slippery slope. And instead of saying no, we start recalibrating. Well, maybe I can sleep less. I'll just skip the workout. I'll cancel that appointment that was really important to me. So we need to take the time to do that quick assessment, because that's where the trip up happens when we can lose integrity and fail to keep our word. It's normally in the commitment part. Again, most people have good intentions. They're actually trying to be helpful, trying to be the hero, want people to feel like they're there for them. But when we say yes too much, reality smacks us in the face. And either we end up feeling completely overwhelmed, resentful, frustrated, giving up all the things that we had planned for us and our families. Um, and again, or we're failing, if it's even worse, we're failing to meet all those commitments, even once we've given up our sleep and our showers and our eating and our own workouts, etc. And so instead, I'm going to encourage you to be a person of your word. Make the commitment that you will be intentional with what you say yes to. Put boundaries around the things that are most important so that the requests don't eke into the time you need for those things. And then be intentional, factor those in before you're saying yes. Try to look farther down the road of what the consequences are to that yes. What are you saying no to? And again, are you going to be able to fulfill the commitment that you're making? Because ultimately, you aren't the hero. You aren't the person that everyone can rely on. They don't feel like you're in their corner if you keep saying yes and then failing to follow through. So, a phrase I made up years ago and have shared with clients often is keeping your word starts with being intentional about what you commit to and requires saying no where you must. So, keeping your word does require saying no where you need to. So, I have 6 simple strategies to help you really work that muscle to saying no where you need to. And the first one starts with just practicing the art of taking a beat before you say yes. So, this is going to require you, especially if you have the habit over years of just saying yes immediately and then I'll figure it out later. Don't do that anymore. So, stop yourself. A request comes in, create the new habit, insert the phrase, let me think about it, or I need to check my calendar, or I need to talk to my significant other, or I mean, anything, any phrase that you want to say that gives you that time. And guess what? You should be doing all of that anyway. You know, check with other people in your family, look at your calendar to see what's already there. Make realistic yeses and nos based on the facts. And getting access to the facts takes some time. So create a rule for yourself that you will take a beat. So don't answer immediately. Give yourself the time and then get away from the situation so that you can look at the information and the facts and determine whether or not you can do it or not. Because that is the art of keeping your commitments, being intentional with what you say yes or no to. So again, you're going to buy yourself time to think by using whatever phrase you choose. Train yourself to respond. Let me think about it. I will get back to you. You can commit to when you'll get back to them tomorrow by 5. Um, Let me check my calendar. Anything similar to that will work, but just come up with the phrase that you'll use and promise yourself, make the commitment to you that you're going to take the time. All right. The second is you can create a policy statement. I'm sorry, I don't volunteer on Sundays. So, what are the rules? What that does is it takes it off of you. Oh gosh, I'm not saying no. It's just I have this rule. Yes, maybe you created the rule, but that's okay. It just feels a little less personal for you. It's just easier to say no when you lean on a rule. So make some rules for yourself about evenings or weekends or certain days of the week or certain times of the year. Or, I, as a coach, there are times when people want more of my time than I can give. And I let them know, like, I've already invested as much time in that as I can for this month or this quarter. So it's a rule. All right. The next is know your priorities and stick to them. I love getting involved in so many things, and I have lots of opportunities and requests of my time and my abilities. And it would be super fun to say yes, but I have to stay focused. You, my dear friend, my dear leader, are a limited resource. Yes, we have great energy. We have lots of capacity, especially if we're a great multitasker and all of those things. We can be productive. I'm an efficiency junkie. I get lots done, but my time will be taken away 100% and then some if I keep saying yes. And so I have to be realistic and know what are my rocks, what is most important to me, and those things need to take priority. That helps me say yes and no appropriately based on my priorities, not who made the biggest request or came to me the most times or was the loudest in their request or the pushiest in their request. Side note, you've heard me talk about this before, but people pleasers really are like magnets to people pushers. And so if you say yes a lot and have a hard time with boundaries and saying no, etc., you probably have some people pushers in your life. So they're a little bit harder to push back on. So, knowing your own priorities and prioritizing yourself and your family and your life and your work and your business and all of those things appropriately based on the rules that you make and the prioritizations that you make will help you carve out time for what's most important to you. And then you can still be a resources source where you're able. Um, Another quick strategy is to just put the focus back to you. I just can't right now. How about that? I just can't right now. And this leads me into the next one, keep it simple. The more you speak, the more likely you are to sound defensive, and you don't need to be defensive. You're not required to be the savior, the hero for everyone. And so it's okay to say no. And so keeping it simple, like, I just can't right now. You don't need the reasons. You don't need the backstory. I struggle with this one. Sometimes I start catching myself like I am giving way more detail than I need to. Throw comments if any of this is registering with you, if you struggle with any of this, if you have questions about it, let me know that you're here and gaining some value from this. The last one is tackle easy situations first. So if you've been a person who is constantly saying yes and has a really hard time with boundaries, start with someone who's easier, someone you don't know, who's not a part of your life. But tackle some of the easier ones first and just start practicing. I call it working the muscle. So, working the muscle of saying no, start with people farther away from you or who are more accommodating, less pushy, less manipulative when asking for help. All right. So, we've talked about the slippery slope that we can be on if we're not intentional about the commitments that we make. That's when we end up being out of integrity. We want our word to mean something and we want our lives to have some balance. And so it's really important to uh, use these strategies. And so let me uh, say them really quickly again. Buy yourself time to think. So come up with the phrase that you're going to use. I need to check with so and so. I need to think about it. I need to check my calendar and get back to you. So just buy yourself that time so you're not doing the knee jerk habit reaction of saying yes quickly. And again, you should be checking your calendar and checking with other people in your life anyway. So buy yourself the time to do that. And also, it gives you the time to kind of get the strength to say what you need to say if it's difficult for you to say no. To create those policy statements. I don't do those things on Wednesdays, or I take weekends off, or this time of year, I don't do thus and such. I had to do that myself actually during this summer. This is my major family time in the summer. I spend lots of time with family. So I have said no to things because I have said I am carving out more time for family right now. This is when my family is in the country, in the state. So I'm going to soak up my family time in the summer. Uh, know your priorities and stick to them. So know what's most important to you. What are those rocks? And then as much as that little stuff that can fit in can, but the rest you need to say no to. Shift the focus back to you / keep it simple. So that's number 4 and 5. Um, I just can't right now. You don't need to fill in the details. You don't need to defend. You don't need to give any reasons why. You can simply say no, or I just can't right now. And then the last one is tackle some of the easy ones first. Start practicing working that muscle to get better and better at it, so that you're saying yes and no appropriately and it becomes easy to you. Hope this helps. Thanks so much for joining. If you want access to a lot of more information like this, check out my Impact Academy. You can check it out for 2 weeks for free, and there are tons of audios, videos, PDF downloads, all by topic, tons and tons of information, all digital, available to you 24/7 that I've created over like about 20 years. So you can just go to myimpactacademy.com /join to check it out. Again, that's myimpactacademy.com /join. All right. I hope you're having a great week. It's a beautiful day in Michigan here for sure. Make it a great day, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Bye.